Okay, we're talking about the relationship of the human being to the divine. We're talking about things that go with the end of the Kali Yuga, which Steiner said happened in 1899, I think. And you know, the New Age of Michael in 1879, and Steiner is born into that matrix in order to make his contributions where he unites science, the scientific impulse, with the spiritual impulse in his epistemological and philosophical works, which are really just maps to the human mind. In real anthroposophy, we study our mind because we want to be scientists of the spirit. And that's a very important impulse that needs to be part of the legacy that we appreciate with Rudolf Steiner's work. You know, we just cannot abandon it whole hog and not be kind of sadly foolish. You know? But anyway, so there we are. We've got the end of original participation, the onlooker separation, and various processes involved in that, and a lot of them involve language, which is one of the reasons we need to study Barfield, because we really need to appreciate the relationship between the word, terms, and ideas and concepts, because thought and experience. Remember where Steiner put us in the very beginning in Theory of Knowledge? Thought and experience. Okay, so Don Cruz's book, I wish it was for free on the internet. His website is down, which was called Difficult Truths. I don't know why it's not there anymore, where you could have read a lot of this stuff. You might have to buy the book. You know, that's a whole other set of problems. But anyway, the age of the consciousness soul begins at this time. And if you want a definition of the consciousness soul, you read Theosophy. I'm not going to read it too. Maybe I will later here a little bit, but I want to sort of keep on the roll here. So the consciousness soul comes in, and basically what it says in the Theosophy is it's a relationship can be made between the soul and the eternal, such that the true and the good become knowledge to the soul as those reside in the eternal. Okay, so that's what the age of the conscious soul is about. And of course he's describing it in an intellectual soul fashion. In my writing you'll find it described somewhat differently. So, and also, I mean, Barfield, original participation, onlooker separation, and final participation. You really want to get that book, Saving the Appearances. So here we are, you know, we're going along and we're trying to understand what's going on in the world, and we can appreciate the materialism, and we can appreciate the materialism extends all the way into our ideas of religion. And if you want to look at what's going on in terms of the Muslim or Islamic community, you have to understand you have the activity of spiritual materialism there. Materialism pervades everything. You know, the whole fundamentalist thing. You can have fundamentalist scientists, you can have fundamentalists Islamists, you can have fundamentalist Christians, you can have fundamentalist Buddhas, you can have fundamentalist anthroposophists. It's a materialization of the thinking. It's a thinking which is, shall we say, seeking after absolute facts and absolute truth, as Catherine put it. And it's the absolute thing that's the problem. There are facts and there are truth. And in our own consciousness, in ourself, we have to figure out how to balance those, how to keep things from not getting too out there, you know. And there is help. There is far more help than just reading Rudolf Steiner. You know, he created all these students. And if we're going to be anthroposophists, we actually need to start reading more of the students and less of Steiner. But I've been ranting on that. Let's see if we can wrap up this our conception of the double and bring it kind of personal, back to the personal in a way. Okay, so you have inside you your upper and lower ego. And one way to recognize that is the upper ego is free of the double. Okay. Remember where Steiner said the heart is protected. You know, that's the lawfulness created by the mother. The double can't invade a certain space in the human soul. So the human soul is able to introduce into itself its conscience, not just its shadow sides. And through the conscience, we have this connection, this link between the lower ego and the upper ego. And so the manifestation is that of the higher ego in the human being is that voice of conscience. And we can participate in that. We can participate in that conscience. We can evoke it. And in my writings about this stuff, you'll find descriptions of how to do that in a practical fashion. In fact, for example, when at a certain stage of introspection you learn to distinguish in your own inner life these three relationships to concepts that I've talked about, which are belief, understanding, and knowledge. It is the evocation of the conscience in your thinking about that allows you to make the distinction, because the conscience knows what is really knowledge to you, what is really understanding, and what is mere belief. And you can do this all in yourself, So this is important stuff. It's not just about the outer world, but it's about the inner world, and it's about recognizing that the main way that things get into the outer world is through us. So when the Ahrimanic enchantment happens, it doesn't happen because Ahriman's outside waving a magic wand. It happens because all of the doubles cooperate in this giant gesture over time, by which human thinking is influenced. And now we're waking up to this influence inside ourselves of human thinking. And Steiner's given us these wonderful books that are maps to the human inwardness and the relationship between our thinking and our experience. And if we practice those things, then we'll find a way to bring into our anthroposophical life and into the world in a more intense and powerful fashion the superconscious, the conscience, or in another way we could put it that would be fully agreeable with Steiner, the Christ impulse. And this is done in relationship to resistance. So the soul then becomes what at first can appear as a kind of battlefield, but it's really a place where the best way to understand it is artistically. The soul is a temple, and parts of the temple include the Luciferic and the Ahrimanic. And through our conscience and through our participation in our soul life, in how we maintain the temple, where we put the windows and the kinds of activities we engage in, less beam, more moat, for example, means we've built windows in the temple of the soul by which to look at the world. All that activity can be thought of as artistic. We are artists of the temple of our soul, and we don't particularly have to get rid of Lucifer and Ahriman in the sense of the doubles inside. We just have to put them in their place. There's intelligence there that we can use, and we ought to learn to use it. That said, there's more to talk about at another time.